Hello and welcome to this short tutorial on how to use the survey editor in KellyDown. For this demonstration we're going to create a couple of surveys. The first one is from Surface and the other one is tied on to the Surface survey. And then we're going to compare the survey data with the associated well plan. On your screen right now you see the well plan. It consists of a vertical section down to 240 meters, then a build section, a hole section, a turn section, and then a horizontal section to the TD target. So let's close the well plan, then right click on the well and select Add New Survey. So this first survey is going to be a gyro survey. So enter an ID and name for the survey. We want to associate this survey with the well plan that's already been created, and we want to tell KellyDown that this survey tool used to survey this well is a north-seeking gyro. So then click on the section declination tab. The vertical section direction will have already been transferred from the well plan, but we're going to change the magnetic model we're going to use to the BGM 2016 model. And KellyDown calculates the magnetic parameters for the well on the date that we've set. So click on the OK button to create the holder for the survey data. So you can see that KellyDown has created the gyro survey in the Database Explorer. So right click on the gyro survey and select Gyro Survey Data. Before we start entering survey data, let's add some columns so we can see the comparison to the associated well plan. So right click on any one of the columns and select Edit Columns from the pop-up menu. So the columns we want to add are the distance, the north direction, the high side direction, and the proposed inclination and azimuth at the closest point to the survey. So select them and then click on the Add button. You can also move these columns around so they're in a particular order. So if you want to show the north direction before the high side direction, we can move that up by clicking on the Up button. If we wanted to add additional columns individually, we can double click to add them, or we can double click on this side to remove them. So once we've got the columns we want, we can click on the OK button and they'll appear. And because the survey data starts at the same position as the well plan, then the distance and directions are all 0. So now let's start entering some survey data. This is a gyro survey, and normally with gyro surveys the course lengths are all equal, and typically for the metric system they're every 30 meters. So let's just start entering survey data every 30 meters. So enter the survey depth, enter the inclination, we just use random figures. Okay, and because the survey data is regular, we can click on the equal key and tab off it, and we'll get the same course length as the previous survey. We'll enter 0.47 and 134. Enter the equal sign again for the same course length. So we can also enter plus or minus. If I add plus 0.2 degrees, it will add 0.2 degrees to the previous inclination, or I can add minus 10 degrees and it will subtract 10 degrees from the previous azimuth. To the equal sign again. You can also enter inclinations as degrees and minutes, so actually degrees, minutes and seconds. So we could enter 0 degrees, 30 minutes, 30 seconds, or we can enter azimuths as quadrants as well, so we can do south 45, 30 west, and it converts to the format that you've selected in KellyDown under the options. So let's continue to enter some more survey data. So equal sign again, 0.34, And we can continue to do this down to the kickoff point at 240. So now we've reached the kickoff point, and you can see that right now we are 1.36 meters away from the well plan, and our well plan is almost exactly west of us, and the proposed inclination and azimuth are 0. If we entered one more station and 1.25, you can see now that we've started to build, and we should be at 8 degrees at this point, pointing in the direction of 131. So let's, just for this example, let's add something that looks more reasonable. We're building at an 8 degree per 30 meter dog leg, so let's enter 8 degrees in there, and the direction is say 125. And we'll just add a couple of more gyro surveys, go down to 300, and this should be 16, and you can see already that it's showing 16 on here on the associated well plan. So let's enter 15.5 to compare, and then 130. Okay, so let's assume that this is the end of the gyro survey down to 300 meters, and we can save that. So click on the Save button. You'll notice that when we clicked on the Save button, that the color of the data that we've entered changed from blue to black, indicating that this data has been saved. When we enter new data, we'll do this again, you'll notice that the new data is in blue once again, because the data down to row 10 has been saved, and the new data hasn't been saved yet. Before we close the gyro survey data, let's look at where we are in relation to the well plan. You can see that under the distance to plan column that we're 2.25 meters away from our well plan, and our well plan is in the direction of 237 degrees. At the depth of 330 meters, we should be at an inclination of 24.1, and we're actually 23.8, which is quite close. The azimuth should be 131.7. and we're currently 129, so we need to correct that as we drill ahead. So let's click on the Close button at the top of the window, and because we haven't saved that last station yet, it's still in blue, we're prompted as to whether we wish to save it or not. So click on the Yes button to save the data and return to the Database Explorer screen. So let's now add another survey below the gyro survey. We're going to tie on to it. So right click on the gyro survey node in the Database Explorer and select Add New Survey. So this is going to be an MWD survey, and we're going to call this run number 1. And because we tied on to the gyro survey, KellyDown already knows that the associated well plan is design number 1. But this time the survey tool is going to be the MWD tool. So scroll down, select the MWD survey tool. Click on the Section and Declination tab, and you'll notice that the information has been transferred from the parent survey. So the vertical section is still 65 degrees, and our magnetic model is BTGM 2016. So click on the OK button, and you'll notice that run number 1 is created below the gyro survey, meaning it's tied on. So now right click on the run number 1 and select run number 1 data. And you'll notice that this time the survey starts at the bottom of the gyro survey. If we didn't like the bottom of the gyro survey, we could change the tie-on information by clicking on this button at the top. So right now we're tied on at the bottom of the survey, which is 330 meters. But we could select anywhere in the gyro to tie onto. So we could select 300 meters, and as soon as you enter the depth, KellyDown interpolates the parent survey with the tie-on information. And it doesn't have to be a station, it can be anywhere. KellyDown will interpolate that station and change the bottom of the parent station to match. So if we want to tie on 320 meters, it interpolates the depth of 320 meters. Click OK, and then you're immediately prompted about what you want to do with the parent survey. This could be a new survey tied onto a parent at the bottom of the parent, or it could be another lateral tied onto a central wellbore. If it was a lateral, you wouldn't want to change the bottom depth of the parent survey, but in this case it's a tie-on survey, so we don't want to see two versions of that survey data below the tie-on point. So we'll click on do you wish to update the parent's total depth? We want to click yes. So KellyDown will have truncated the parent depth, bottom depth, to 320 meters. So now let's continue to add survey data down to the bottom of the bill section. And you can see now that we've reached 604.87 meters and we're at the end of the bill station. And if we look across to the distance to plan column, we can see that we're 3.52 meters away from the well plan. Our current inclination is 83.5 and we should be at 82.7, and we should be pointing in the direction of 131.74 azimuth, and we're 131.85, which is quite close. The direction to the plan is 221 and the high side to the plan is 83.581 degrees. I find it difficult to understand what's happening looking at the numbers, so one thing you can do is open the visualizer for the current well, and the visualizer shows the well plan and the survey data associated with that well plan. So click on the end of the well plan and zoom in by using the mouse and rotate it, and we can see that we are almost exactly left of the well plan. So if we wanted to correct back to the well plan slightly, we need to move over to the right. And the turn section is coming up ahead, so we need to adjust our profile to reach that turn section later, and we'll look at that when we cover forward projections. One other thing you can do on the visualizer is measure distances. So we know that the survey data should be about 3.5 meters away from the well plan. So if you click on the survey data and then click on the well plan data, you'll see that the distance between the survey data and the well plan is 3.42 meters. So close the visualizer and then close the survey data and answer yes to save the modifications. Thank you for watching this short tutorial.